ice caps and threatening
This is scout business, Luna.
Moon Podcast Escalation! Everyone, my name is Jordan D. White.
My name is Chris Sims, and this is Sailor Business. It's the podcast where we sit down with a guest each and every week and watch every episode of the classic 1992 Sailor Moon anime. And I hope you've got your M&Ms ready, because we are at the finale. That's right, it is part one of the season finale of Sailor Moon, season one. The series finale of Sailor Moon, really.
Okay, all right.
Because next time we're here, it'll be Sailor Moon R.
No, but it's still Sailor Moon.
Different series. Completely different.
Come on.
Completely different.
So all this time when we've been saying we're going to do 200 episodes, we were lying.
Yes, we're like, Sailor Business R starts in 2 weeks.
Ridiculous. All right.
But yes, we are going to be watching Sailor Moon episode 45, Death of the Sailor Guardians, the tragic final battle. Spoiler warning. That is the title of the episode.
I mean, that's the first thing I want to note. Come on. Come on.
Hey, we're not into the episode yet, Jordan. Save it. Save it. Because first we have to introduce our guest. If you are a longtime listener of the show, or if you have gone back and listened to the early episodes, then you'll know that we have today, our first ever guest is back. Juliet Kahn, welcome back to the show.
It's great to be back.
Now, Juliet, I gotta say, every guest we have had on the show has been great. Like, every guest we have had has brought something fun and new and interesting to the show. Obviously, having Leanne on the show was amazing, talking to her about the books. But I feel like you set the bar with your appearance on the show. So, like, you were so informative, like, so engaging. We could not have picked a better guest to launch this show than you. And I'm so glad you have come back to do the finale with us.
Well, thank you. I'm really happy to find that my obsessive focus on this show since, 1998. So for many, many years now has brought some joy to the world.
Well, it has certainly brought joy to us. Now, again, Juliet was our very first guest. So if you go back to episode 2, because episode 1 was just me and Jordan, which, because that's what everyone wants to hear, right? Just, two dudes broing down about Sailor Moon.
See, I don't know if I would call what you do here broing down, to be fair.
Think so.
You're probably correct. But you were our first guest, and we talked about your history with Sailor Moon and all of that back in episode 2, which, again, if you haven't gone back and listened, you're going to be lost in this one. I don't think I can sum this up in my usual 5 seconds.
Oh, yeah, right. So the question is, how has your relationship with Sailor Moon changed in the interim?
How has your personal relationship with Sailor Moon changed?
Well, now I'm full of opinions on Sailor Moon Crystal, of course.
Oh, we totally don't watch it anymore. So share them with us.
Well, I can't say I really watched it anymore either. I gave it like a really solid try, I feel. And I spent a lot of time being like, well, the animation isn't great, but that's okay, because they're going to really get to the core of the characters. And, I was really excited for things like, they're going to stick more to raise manga characterization, and I'm excited to see that happen. Or like, they're going to, really go deep with like Sailor V or something, because this is the manga-oriented one. But then, time went on, and the animation got weirder. And then they started doing weird stuff with like pairing, one of the Senshi up with, each of the 4 kings of heaven, the 4 generals, whatever you want to call them.
Did they?
I was never into that. Yeah, that became more and more of a thing, and like I wasn't a big fan of that the first time it swept fandom in like 1999. I was never into it. It's too neat, and honestly, I was always like super into Rei and Minako together, like full disclosure. But it's just like the bad started outweighing the good. I quit not too long after Minako showed up because it wasn't fun anymore. The enormous influx of merchandise has it's assuaged the pain. At least something is. Something very cool is coming out of all this revival. But besides that, I don't know that my relationship has changed so much. I was rereading the manga. I have lots of opinions on the Kodansha re-release of the series. But that could be a podcast unto itself. Besides that, pretty much everything is the same.
Did they?
Now, are you
sorry.
caught up with where this season finale would be in the manga? Because look, when we started this thing, it was going to be, I was going to watch Crystal, I was going to reread the manga, I was going to do all that. I did not do any of that for this episode.
I'm pretty caught up in every single way, except the live action Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon. I've never actually watched that one.
I know that is not available in America. We're going to get to that. Jordan and I are going to, we're eventually going to have to talk about it, because I've watched, I think, the first 5 or 6 episodes, and they're great. They're fantastic. I love the C'est la vie song.
I love that song.
Those in the musicals are, and I guess I have promised for months now that I would play Sailor Moon Another Story, and I have only gotten 5 minutes into the game, so I am going to, in the break between Sailor Moon and Sailor Moon R, I am going to try and sit down and bust through Sailor Moon Another Story, which will be easy because my girlfriend has completely taken over Dragon Age. That is what is going on in the living room right now. So I will not be finishing that for a while. So I'm going to try and get through that. I really want to watch those musicals, because there's one where they fight Dracula.
Oh my god, they're so good. Legitimately, there's this one moment in one of the musicals. I can't even remember what it is. It completely encapsulates Haruka Uranus as a character to me. I can't even remember the context, but Usagi is being handed a bouquet by some terrible dude who's actually some kind of monster in disguise. But he's very suave, and he's handing it to her. And the actress who plays Haruka runs across the stage full bore, and all of her body language is communicating this is a tremendously heroic moment. She's about to cut the dragon's head off, and she grabs the bouquet and she flings it off stage. And I think in some productions it might have accidentally ended up in the audience, which would have been swoon worthy. But she flings it off stage and then turns with this incredible body language Usagi, don't trust him! He's a monster! And it's just the bravado in it is everything that I love about the musicals. And it's just played totally seriously. Oh my god, Haruka grabbed those flowers and she threw them to the ground! Oh my god, everyone swoon! This is the apex of the show. And it's just, it's so good. I haven't even watched all the musicals, but they're just so much fun and remarkably well produced. And they're just part of such an interesting history in Japan that I could spend an hour talking about, of all female theater and Takarazuka and a whole bunch of other stuff. They're just great. They're totally worth watching.
Speaking of, there's something I want to send. Well, I've got Jordan on the line. I just want to send you this quick photo set from the live action musicals. Jordan, can you tell me what you're looking at when you click on this?
Let's see. Yeah, I can tell you what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a series of GIFs of Mercury and Jupiter dancing together, looking at each other, hugging each other, protecting one another. It's hard to say all the different things, but a lot of things. But there's cherry-picked moments.
The musicals know what's up. That's all I'm saying. Musicals know what's up. Now, Juliet, I think we've got a couple of listener questions coming in, but before we get to that, now you mentioned Rei and Minako.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Now, that
before.
is something I have never considered.
Oh man. Okay, so back in the day when I used to be on Homestuck fandom, what we used to call our unpopular opinions were, unpopular Homestuck opinions. I used to hang out with friends of mine, online, and we would talk about, our terrible unpopular fandom opinions. And this is still the most controversial one that I ever lobbed into the fray. I ship Rei and Minako more than I ship Haruka and Michiru.
Whoa.
They're my ultimate Sailor Moon OTP. They're one of my favorite fictional couples of all time. And they're sort of incarnations over the different adaptations of Sailor Moon. They differ in how they sort of respond to each other. But and I think I mentioned this way back when, I'm definitely more of a manga-based person, as a Sailor Moon fan. I've seen many, many, many different adaptations at this point, but that's sort of always where I'll go back to. And the manga, it's not as solid canon as Haruka and Michiru were, but there's a lot of little hints here and there of them sort of gravitating towards each other, and there were a lot of little bits of iconography that Takeuchi loved to put in the manga between the two of them that she really loved to use between Haruka and Michiru. This all sounds very shipper conspiracy, oh my god, well if you just looked at the shading of the background you'd see it. But
this sounds exactly it sounds exactly like the Mercury Jupiter stuff I'm used to hearing, actually.
No. No.
It's interesting because it's silly to say this out loud. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's like, well, if you saw how often like Takeuchi drew like Rei's hand sort of casually around Minako's waist, you'd get it. But it's interesting. She uses a lot of the same kind of iconography and dialogue between them that she used between Haruka and Michiru. Like there's a lot of time they just sort of spend together. There's a lot of like sort of bickery tension. There's this one chapter that I really love called Rei and Minako's girls' school battle, and it's like totally not like a plot important chapter at all. It's they're studying for like their high school entrance exams, and Minako's like, oh my god, I hate this so much. Rei, why are you even here? You're in a private girls' school. You don't have to take exams to get into high school. And Rei's like, oh well, I just like to be here to keep up on my studying, blah blah blah. And Minako, complains enough that finally Rei's like, you know what? Like, just use your Venus mirror to disguise yourself and come to school with me for a day. So she does, and it's all just a comedy about how Minako doesn't really fit in. Like, she's kind of, trashy compared to all these, refined private school girls. She's making a mess in the cafeteria. She's so loud, blah, blah. And there's this one moment, the monster of the chapter is this spirit of like lascivious barbarism. Who, I can't think how else to put it. The character's name was translated as like Barbara S. and she called everything like, "Ooh, how wild and barbarous." She possesses Rei, and Rei goes on this rampage of trying to make out with all the other girls. And, there's this long extended sequence where she like grabs Venus and like dips her really dramatically, and she's like, "Ooh, you wild kitten, I'm gonna eat you up." And, of course Venus saves the day and then exorcises the demon and everything. But, in the end, they're joking around and linking their arms and, blushing, looking at each other, and me at 10 was like, oh, what's this? Oh, I like this. And there's a lot of other little things. Takeuchi loved drawing them together in illustrations, holding hands or like with their arms around each other. And, there's always been like sort of apocryphal fan stories about like, oh, this one magazine in 1997 had her saying that she sort of thought of them as a couple. But I don't know how much like she's ever commented on it. I know that Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon, like it was like them as a couple was definitely like most prominent there. I mean, again, I haven't watched it. I can't speak to it personally, but like, everyone I know who's ever been into these two as a couple was like, oh, well, you gotta watch Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon. They were paired a lot together in the manga, like in illustrations, in action scenes. I know later on in the last Sailor Moon arc, Sailor Moon Stars, like they have a lot of like little covert missions they go on together, and just it's if you've read enough Takeuchi manga and if you're like familiar enough with the way she likes to pair characters together, you can kind of see that like, not that like, they were like, oh my god, totally canon, but she was interested in like the tension between them, and they're totally my favorite, and like I ship them to death. Like I'm just very, very into it, especially because Rei in the manga is very like, not a total misanthrope, but she's not great with people. She doesn't really like being around people, except for Venus, who's the like ridiculous, bubbly Hannah Montana type. And I just always thought that was cute.
I just sent you guys, while you were talking, I looked it up, pictures, and yeah, there's a lot of them. I sent one of them has a link to like a thing that has a few, and it's got them holding hands while they're talking to, I don't know who, it's in Japanese, it's not translated, so I can't tell exactly what's going on. But yeah, like they're like holding hands and kind of crying. It's like, oh, I never noticed that.
What's interesting about that to me is that we know how Rei treats Usagi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know that Minako is exactly like Usagi.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
But yeah, I got a lot of Sailor Venus opinions coming up about this episode. No, Jordan, do we have any listener questions right now, or do you want to save those for next week's episode?
We could do a couple now if you want. We could start with a few.
Let's do a couple just to get warmed up here.
Well, one somebody pointed out actually was saying, did you know that the musicals include Dracula and Vampire Elizabeth Bathory, which is, you just mentioned that Dracula was in one, and I had no idea. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm really, that is like, if Batman showed up, like that would be like, if Batman showed up and there was like, if you can tell me that, like, Sailor Moon gets trapped in some kind of complex mechanical death trap in that, then that is everything I want out of life. We're gonna have to find the musicals and maybe do, like, a special episode on the musicals, I think.
But here's a question. Barely Sushi asks, what comic would you like to see adapted Crystal style?
like an updated, straight-up adaptation of a comic with kind of bad animation?
Well, let's not say the bad animation part. Presumably, they're trying for good animation and are failing. But let's just say, yes, like a direct issue for issue direct adaptation of a comic.
This might just be because it's on my mind lately, but like the Lee Kirby FF.
Interesting.
Like, just, I mean, those first ones are going to be weird, but you know, when you get 50 episodes in, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
Juliette, do you have one that you'd really like to see?
Oh gosh, you know, my brain immediately leaps to Brubaker's early 2000s Catwoman. I would love to see somebody like really tackle that with a good budget, you know, with a really like solid like vision, you know, really just, I mean, totally aping the way the comics look, but like I would not want them to adapt it to look, you know, more realistic or whatever. I'd want it to look like those comics did and to just sort of chronicle like the little stories of, you know, Selina becoming like the protector of the East End of Gotham and everything. You know, it wouldn't be, I don't think, like the most how do I put it? Like the most like glitzy show. One of the things I really liked about those comics is that they weren't telling like huge like apocalyptic stories. But I would love like just a short like mini series about Selina getting up to stuff down there the way she did in that comic.
That would be really fun.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That was a great series. So yeah, that would be terrific.
I would love to see that with Catwoman's goggles just kind of hovering over and slightly to the left of her face. in the way that Ray's eyes often do on the episodes of Crystal that I've seen.
It's really true. Oh my god. That's one of the things that started to bother me, especially the way eyes would just sort of hover like
They
that.
float.
And I just couldn't take it anymore. It was just, you know, there's a certain amount of like stylistic, you know, bizarreness that I'm willing to put up with. Like, I really like Utena, where everybody's bangs are made of like pink cellophane. Like, I can deal with it, but it was just too much with Crystal.
Jordan, do you have one?
You know, I would love to see, it's sort of a weird choice because it doesn't have to be animated, but I would love to see a direct adaptation of the Vertigo Hellblazer, because I love the old Hellblazer. The one that ended just a couple years ago, but that whole run I thought was pretty awesome.
Now, would you start with like the Jamie Delano #1, or would you start with like when Ennis comes on? And...
That's a real tough call. I mean, I like them both. Obviously, when Ennis comes on is when it gets really, 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 really good. But I thought the beginning stuff is good as well.
Yeah, well, the reason I ask is because A, I feel like John's 40th birthday party is a pretty good place to start that.
That's true.
And B, like the tone changes so drastically with Ennis.
That's the thing. That's the thing about that series, though, is that I love how it changes and over all the different writers. He's such a dark character and a fun character to read about, no matter who's writing him. So it's part of the fun of it is the changing of the writers. I think I'm still missing actually a few because back when I was originally buying Hellblazer, they didn't have the entire series in collection. Like there was that section in the middle between the early Delano and the Garth Ennis that they just didn't collect, and they've done it now, but I think I've forgotten to buy it. So there's probably like a volume or so I still need to pick up.
All right, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we've got actually a ton. So let's see.
Okay,
if Luna could use her butt magic to give you a gift, what would it be?
Oh, well, I did have a birthday. We're recording this before it, but this will go up after the week after my birthday. So I hope I get many presents from sparkling backflipping cats.
I mean, do you want a transformation pen?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Is that like how are you asking me that?
I would much rather have a disguise pen than a transformation pen.
You wouldn't want to turn into like a pretty guardian Jordan D. White.
I've drawn pictures of that, so that exists. But I think
the editor who fights for love and justice.
Yeah, listen, that's cool, but I think the disguise pen would be more handy. Well, you know what? Here's why. I don't fight a lot of monsters.
Because you like to lie.
No, because I don't fight a lot of monsters. And I feel like
you don't fight a lot of monsters because you can't turn into a Sailor Scout.
Oh, that's the only reason. As soon as I gained that ability, there would be monsters all around me.
Yeah, well, let me tell you about what happens when you gain power.
What happens?
When you gain great power, Jordan.
What?
You gain great responsibility as well. Maybe you should go to the next door office and ask about that.
I work in the Deadpool office where there's no responsibility. Exactly. No responsibility whatsoever.
I would. No, I mean, look, Disguise Pen is great, but I would love, of course I want to be a superhero.
Or you could have a computer, a little computer, or a visor.
Little computer is garbage.
A little visor.
You're giving me like a shitty T-Mobile sidekick from like,
or a moonstick. Don't forget a moonstick. Or I don't know what your equivalent of moon. A Chris stick.
A Chris stick. A Chris Crystal.
There you go.
No, I would definitely want a transformation pen.
Okay.
Because first of all, I need a pen to take notes, and we know that the transformation pens do actually function as ballpoint pens.
So what happens if you lose the cap? Like, are you screwed?
That's why Sailor Moon didn't get a pen. They did not give Usagi a pen. They're like, if we give her a pen,
She'll chew on it. She'll do that thing where she bounces it on her lip like she did the pencil,
yeah.
and then she'll drop it.
Juliet, what would you like from Luna's butt?
Oh God, transformation pen is pretty tempting. I mean, what's like the range of possibilities here? Like, can I wish for like Neptune's aqua mirror? Can I wish for like that weird brooch? Okay. I'm gonna say Pluto's garnet rod actually. But I would use it for the most ridiculous, piddly, like trivial, random stuff. Like I would stop time so I could sleep more in the morning, or like procrastinate on something I have to turn in, and then just use, the garnet rod to give myself like an extra 2 hours to edit something. That's just to make sure I could like stop time and just like, really enjoy like a museum or like a zoo and like go behind and like pet the tigers and stuff.
No, that's awesome. That's not bad usage. That's great usage.
I think, time manipulation for like really trivial crap would be how I went.
I mean, yeah, like you'd never have to take time to get anywhere. You could just be like,
Exactly. It would
be the best.
Be great to never have to factor in like, oh, I have to get somewhere, so I have to wake up at like an hour earlier, and then I have to factor in transportation. I would be like the most ridiculous, slovenly person, though. Like every time Luna says something along the lines of like, Usagi, you can't do that. You're going to get chubby, or you're going to be lazy, or whatever. That would be me. Oh my God, I would like never bother to like plan for anything or like take care of anything in a timely fashion. I would just use my magical time pockets.
Do you think that makes you age? You think like you'd be like way older than anyone else because you keep stopping time and living in that time?
Look, the scouts don't age.
Well, they don't age ever.
I'm asking for this with the assumption that I will not age the way Pluto does not age.
Okay, fair. Do you want another question, or do you want to stop there?
Let's do one more and then move on.
Okay. I don't know what this means, Chris. I'm assuming you can explain this to me. What scout plays Renegade that you would expect to play as Paragon?
Oh, okay. See, Jordan, there are these things that the kids are into called video games.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a popular series of video games called Mass Effect.
Okay.
That you would probably enjoy. I think you would get a kick out of them, because they're basically like, BioWare had the Star Wars license, and then they lost the Star Wars license, and then they made Mass Effect.
Okay.
Which just happens to have people that, get the ability to move things around with their mind energy,
All right.
Mass Effect is the best not Star Wars, I think. But you can, like, the morality system in the game is between Paragon and Renegade. And so there are moments where you can choose in conversations to take the Paragon answer, which is always, and if you've never played a BioWare game, and if you're listening to this and you've never played a BioWare game, the choices are always like Paragon option, yes, I will give you all my money. And the Renegade option is always like, no, I'll murder these puppies with my bare hand. Like, there is very little in between.
Okay, all right.
And you can do, like, and in, I think it's 2, like, you can actually, in, like, cutscenes, pull one of the triggers on the controller for an interrupt, a Paragon interrupt or a Renegade interrupt. Like, you have the option of just, like, if someone is, if you're trying to get information out of someone and they're not being cooperative, like, you might get a Renegade interrupt to, like, throw them out of them up with, or shoot them in the face or whatever. I would say you would expect Usagi to play Paragon, but she would go full Renegade, like puppy strangling, like Renegade every time.
Wow. Every time?
Every time. Because first of all, having played it, like, I almost always, like, when I am given that system, I almost always feel compelled to, like, well, I have to be a good guy, like, even when, like, I hate the good guy choices. So I did consciously try to do a playthrough where I was like, regardless of where this puts me on the alignment spectrum, I am just going to do whichever one I like the most, and I am going to do every interrupt. Like, every time I get the chance to do a cutscene interrupt, no matter if it's good or bad, I'm going to do it just to see what it is. And generally, the Renegade stuff is just more expedient. Generally, you are just killing guys you eventually kill anyway.
Okay.
So I think Usagi would have more fun.
She'd just be like, I'm going to take the opportunity to not be responsible and good. Yeah, it's just a game. That's fine.
There's literally one, I think it's in Mass Effect 2, where there's a bad guy standing up. You're in like a a warehouse or something, and there's a bad guy standing up on a balcony, and he's like giving you a speech about his evil villainous plan, and you get the option to do a renegade interrupt. If you take it, you see that he's standing on like a propane tank, and you just shoot the propane tank and blow him up.
Nice.
If you don't take it, and you let him finish his speech about how he is going to kill you, you then go into a fight scene, and you have to fight him and kill him anyway.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh, this is way easier to just blow up the propane tank while he's talking.
See, yeah, I mean, again, because it's a game, I feel like that's a... Like, you know what... Like, because what bugs me is when you take the online quizzes, they are actually asking you things that you would never do. Because they're asking you, like, if someone crossed you, would you, like, A, like, scoop their guts out and feed them to them? Or B, like, smash their face in? It's like, no, like, get angry. I'm a human. I don't murder people in real life. That's not an option. But it's like, no, we're telling you what supervillain you are. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not. You gotta... Okay, whatever. They don't usually have the option of just be good.
What do you hate more? People who dress as bats or aliens? Yeah, but I think Usagi would definitely be because she's the moon pudding. You would expect her to be 100% Paragon, and then you would look at her save file, and she'd have all the weird scars and all that stuff in her Mass Effect game. Because she would, and then if you asked her about it, she'd like stick her tongue out and giggle and be like, it was fun. Like, she wouldn't take it seriously, I think. Yeah. It doesn't mean she's a bad person. If she was watching Ray play, like every time Ray did one of those renegade interrupts, she'd be like, Ray, you're so mean. Probably. No, okay, now we're going to get some great The Scouts Play Mass Effect fan fiction, so I look forward to that. Go check out Couch Chaos if you want to see what we have wrought. So let's talk about this episode a little. Can I have like 5 seconds? Well, before we get to that, I just want to set the stage, which is that if you don't know, if you're new to watching Sailor Moon, you didn't watch it back in the early 90s or the mid 90s or whenever it was on in America. This is 2 episodes, this episode and next episode. In the original American version, they reduced it to 1 episode. They cut both of these episodes down to fit into actual 22 minutes. With a Sailor Moon says, so even shorter than that, which is pretty intense and crazy. So I definitely watched that as well. So I'll do notes about that in both episodes. But I just wanted to point that out. As I was watching them this morning before we were recording, I actually did write down in my notes, I can totally see why they cut this in half. Really? It's really slow. First of all, there's a lot of flashbacks. There's a lot of people saying the same stuff over and over. To be honest, and again, at this point, you know what I like about Sailor Moon. I like the weird Monster of the Week superhero team stuff. I cannot care less about the Moon Kingdom. I mean, I do care about the Moon Kingdom because I'm doing this podcast. But all this stuff, I'm just I find these 2 episodes to actually be very boring, with the exception of maybe 5 minutes. I can't believe you. I can't believe you're saying this. I can totally see why they cut it in half. These episodes are so intense. Okay, look. Okay, well, look. Let's do it. Juliet, you will be the tiebreaker on this. You don't have to make your decision now if you don't want to. No pressure. You can decide at the end if you like. I will decide at the end. Okay. So you want to sum something up for us, Chris? Yes. Can I have 5 seconds? You mean 5 minutes? I think you're using the wrong word. No, I need 2 seconds. Again, minutes, I think. An instant, an instant of your time. Are you going to Matrix us the memories, or? No, I just this show is so compact. Okay. And so well explained. All right. That I don't need to even, I can just hint at things and everything will fall into place. Do it. Okay, are you gonna? Can I have 2 seconds? Oh, okay. I was timing an instant. Okay, go ahead. Can I have 2 seconds? 2 seconds. All right, an entire 2 seconds. Okay, just tell me when to go. Get set. Go. It's the last episode. Go. That's it. Okay, I did it. That's all I got. It's the second to last episode. You were wrong. It's in America. It's in America. It's the last episode. Okay. Second to last episode. So what has happened? Tight continuity. Very tight continuity. In the last episode, they find out, because really it's kind of a 3-part finale, right? In some ways, yeah. Because in the last episode, they finally deal with Kunzite / Malachite. And in this one, the cats have located the entrance to the Dark Kingdom. It's at point D in the Arctic Circle. There's a lot of conversation in this about the D point, and I laughed every time.
Oh God, so did I.
And the cats are
dark
still
spots-
injured from getting the shit beat out of them last episode.
The cats are still fucked up. There's sunspots, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, and other disasters all hitting Earth at once that, according to the news, are caused by sunspots.
Yeah, I don't get it, but okay.
I don't either. But you know what? I am not a meteorologist. I don't know how sunspots affect the weather. I also don't know. I am not a gemologist, so I don't know how the Dark Kingdom, the evil rocks, affect the weather. So
Let's talk about, again, they still are using the same preview song, and it's so inappropriate. All of my friends are going to die today. It's just so terrible. How can they do that? Did they not for a second go, should we do like a more serious song? No, it's fine. It's a pattern. We'll just keep doing it. So weird for both episodes.
almost as good as. I can't believe Queen Beryl killed my mother in Brainwashed Tuxedo Mask.
It's so weird. So yeah, we open with the cats, the bandaged cats watching TV about how terrible everything is. And
Now, you're a cat owner.
yes,
I hope your cats have never been
bandaged up like this. No, thankfully.
injured by. I hope no one has ever thrown dark energy at your cat.
No, they never have.
I have also never, in my life, seen a cat that is, bandaged like a human would be.
No, because I'll tell you why. No cat would tolerate that. If you just wrapped ace bandages around a cat, the cat would be like, "What the fuck is this?" And they would just tear at it nonstop until it was off.
Did Usagi and Minako have to sit down and shave the cats and then put Neosporin on their cuts and then bandage them up is my question. Or did they just are Luna and Artemis just I do not want to go to point D in the Arctic Circle. It sucks and it's cold and it seems like this is going to be really hard. So just wrap me up in these bandages and we'll just not go.
Or did they take them to the vet? Or I don't know. I mean, it's possible that they took them to the vet and the vet put those cones and stuff on them. And then when they got home, they went, okay, you don't need the cone. You're an intelligent being.
How much better would this be if Luna and Artemis had to wear cones?
It would be hilarious if they were wearing cones. But again, we assume they are intelligent enough not to remove their bandages.
Oh, so funny. So yeah, the cats are all bandaged up, and they are going to be
and they're not even watching the TV at home. They're out on the street watching in a storefront, which is pretty silly.
Here's the thing about this episode: everybody's kind of getting ready to die.
Oh
right
wait,
now.
in the episode "Death of the Sailor Guardians," the Sailor Guardians are getting ready to die. They just read the title.
Maybe they did. Maybe they had access to the title. But I do think it's weirdly super intense because, it's a superhero story, right? It's at its heart, it's a superhero story and an action story.
Mm-hmm.
But you rarely have, in superhero stories and action stories, before somebody goes out to face off against the villain, they're not I need to make dinner for my family one last time.
Yeah, no, that's true. You're
because
right.
I might die. That is intense.
Oh, I sorry. 2 small notes on the Luna scene at the beginning. Tiny things from the Deke thing. One is Luna says today's D-Day, which I was like, what? I thought that was a very specific other thing, but okay. And then Artemis says, this looks like scout business. And I was like, Artemis, you fucked it up again.
Damn it, Artemis.
You never get anything right. It's not scout business. All right, sorry. That was my notes on
Dropping
the
the ball.
But yeah, no, she makes dinner for her family because she expects to die.
I don't know what this dinner is meant to be.
Oh, it's a curry. She just threw everything.
She says it's curry, but it's there's so much on the counter.
Oh yeah,
There's eggshells and spices.
and there's so much on the plate. Just I don't even know what it's all supposed to be, but it's a million different looking things. And of course,
But
it's
yeah,
terrible.
she has made her dinner. It's not terrible. It's not terrible. It's spicy.
I'm trying to decipher what any of the things on this plate are. Okay, definitely tentacles. So
That's not tentacles. What are you looking at that you think is tentacles?
the purple thing that has suction cups on it.
Okay, yes, you're right. That is tentacles.
Thank you. Those are, I mean, listen, octopus tentacles, I assume, or maybe squid. I'm not saying anything. She's not cooking Yoma or something, but those are tentacles. Maybe that's a tomato.
What if What if Usagi had been like harvesting edible pieces from all the Yoma this whole time?
It could
It's
be.
almost in character.
Oh, there's a shrimp. I see a shrimp. Is that supposed to be the butt of a carrot? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. Really poorly peeled potatoes, I think.
Look, it's spicy and it makes Usagi cry.
It does make her cry.
For the first of many times in this episode.
And then we get to cut to her with the scouts, and as much as that scene is kind of played for jokes, it is also the same attitude. They're talking about, oh, we're preparing for this battle and all that, and Usagi says to Rei, "Hey, did you kiss Yoichiro before we left?
Did you make out with Chad?
Did you kiss Chad?" Now in the Deke, the scene reads totally different. They play it way more goofy. All the scouts are not. They're so casual. They're just like, oh, we're going to go fight Queen Beryl. Looks like we got the information. Let's do this. And she's like, did you kiss Chad? And they're like, Serena, wah, wah. The end. That's the end of that scene. But in this one, it's like, no, I didn't kiss Chad. What are you talking? And she's like, because, you might never see him again because we're all going to die. Oh, great.
Did you not see the title of this episode, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, so it's pretty much a downer.
The thing that I really like in this scene is also one of my favorite things happens. When Rei is yelling at Usagi, she yells at her so hard that her meatballs come off of her head. They are separated from her head. Also, my fave. But I love that everybody's kind of standing around going like, yep, we're going to go off to fight to the death with Queen Beryl and them. And Jupiter's just like, yeah, let's do it. And like cracks her knuckles. I'm like, yes.
Now,
Makoto, my fave.
Now, this is a moment where I actually took a note on behalf of Chris, going, oh man, Chris will, if he didn't notice this specifically, he'll want to have, which is, they're talking about how they're going to die. And doesn't, Amy says something like, yeah, I'd like to be in love as well. I'd like to experience love as well. And she blushes. And everybody sticks their face in going, what? But Jupiter looks so unhappy. Jupiter looks crushed.
Looks like Charlie Brown.
She literally does look like Charlie Brown. She is going, who does Amy love besides me? And so maybe you're right. I definitely support the Jupiter's in love with Amy.
I think what's happening is that something you missed is that Amy goes, yeah, I'd really like to know what being in love is like, which implies that she does not know what love is like because she's with Rio. Which we will come back to that in a little bit.
Jupiter.
But I feel like everybody has different faces reacting to Amy in that scene. Like Minako is like, oh, and like Rei's really curious, and Usagi is like, yeah, what's up? Let's get on this love biz.
And poor Jupiter is so upset.
So, yeah. We get our mission statement. The cats totally cop out. They're like, oh yeah, look, we're too injured. Have fun in the Arctic. By yourself. This is something really interesting, and it might only be interesting to me. We get the full transformation sequences, which again, that is time you could cut, even though I love the transformation sequences.
Yeah, but I get you.
But it is also implied, like, the cats are conversing with them during the transformation sequences, which implies that the transformation sequences actually do take the time that we see.
Do the cats talk to
Because
them?
people are like,
what do they say?
The cats... Well, that's when they say, hey, you've got to go to point D in the Arctic Circle.
They do.
You're going to do a sailor teleport. Like, so while they are, like, I'm trying to imagine what this looks like from the perspective of the cats, of just these girls, like, spinning and dancing and rainbows coming down.
Maybe it's a montage.
We're here for 2 minutes.
Maybe they're just talking over it, and really it takes place afterwards.
I like my version better.
In the Deke version, they do the same thing, except they're not talking to them. They're just talking about them. They're like, oh, do you think they're ready? Well, I know that Mina and I know that Lita and Mina and Rei and Amy are ready, but Serena's another story. Oh no, what are we gonna do?
What an asshole cat.
Artemis continues to be a jerk. Yeah. Oh well.
Artemis has done very little over the course of the season to ingratiate himself with us.
No, he's been really jerky, and he contended the whole thing of keeping the ruse up that he's the boss after we've already met him. It was like, oh come on, jerk.
No, Juliet, do you have any feelings about Artemis? Because I know, again, we talked about it. You're a big Minako fan.
Artemis, I always loved the sort of, how to put it. I always liked the sort of wry counterpoint he provided to Minako being, the ridiculous little flipperty gibbet that she is. I loved him. I really imprinted on him when I was younger because I really wanted a white cat and I thought he was really cute and everything. But there's actually a chapter of the manga where things get sort of weird with him and Venus. It's not super ridiculous, but there's this one chapter where she's all about she's trying to try out for this reality TV show, and there's a sequence where she goes to take a bath, and he's like, you don't realize this, and it's not clear if he's talking to himself or thinking or whatever, and he's like, but I know for a fact that you're becoming more beautiful every day, more and more like the goddess of beauty that you're named after. And I think I can't remember what it is, but she he peeks his head in, and she throws a slipper at him like, hey, no peeking on me in the bath. And I remember being 10 and thinking, that's weird. That's strange. So now every time I see Artemis, in any other context or in the anime, I'm like, wow, you're being a real dick to cover up the fact that you peek on Minako in the bathroom. So Artemis and I have a complicated relationship. It's the bottom line here.
So Artemis is a peeper. That's what we have learned today.
Dang.
Artemis. What a jerk. So the scouts get a new superpower. As it turns out, they can just all join hands and get the power to teleport, which is handy.
Yeah, which they describe as joining all your powers together. No, not really. Not in any way that makes any sense. They just hold hands and teleport.
I always loved that in the anime, when they decide to have a group attack, it can basically be exactly what they need. There's no real, roster here. We need to be able to blast that guy. Let's all hold hands and blast him with a giant comet of energy. You're we really need to get somewhere really fast, and we need it to be not complicated to animate. Oh, well, we can just teleport. And no, we need to go to the moon. We can just be in the moon. We need to look back into somebody's memories. Oh, look, we time travel. Awesome. Yeah, no, I always appreciate that.
I like the fact that they screw up the ground real bad. Poor Gramps is going to have to eat the cost of that.
Oh, he's just going to make you eat your own, fix it. Hey, part of your training, go get a bag of cement and fix the driveway. Gramps out. Oji-san out. So, the scouts teleport to Point D, which again is in the Arctic. If you are listening to the show, there's a pretty good chance you know what the scouts look like.
Yeah.
You know what they wear. They wear tiny, tiny miniskirts and boots and really tight bodysuits with bows and sailor colors. They are ill-equipped for an Arctic expedition.
Bare legs, half bare arms.
We need Arctic action Sailor Moon figures, I think, is what we need. In the dub, in the original Japanese, Usagi is, of course, complaining about the cold. With good reason. Everyone else is just kind of standing around. Makoto, I think, is definitely cold and trying not to act like it. She's so, she's got her hand on her hip and she's, so resolved. And, I can't help but read that as, yeah, you're playing it off. That's what you're doing.
She's got a reputation to maintain.
What's funny is, if they hadn't had her complain about how cold it was, I totally would have accepted their magic keeps them warm.
Yes.
But they're no, they're just freezing colds. That's all. Oh, okay.
Well, she should have been hey, turn me into a Shackleton Arctic Explorer. And then she would have gotten all of her glacier navigating equipment.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
In the new dub, they put in a little bit of Usagi sniping at Rei, because Rei immediately, as soon as Usagi's hey, it's really cold, Rei turns around and she goes, shut up! Shut up, you idiot! In the new dub, they put in a little thing where Usagi replies to that with, yeah, well, you've got more body fat than I do. Keeping you warm.
Nice.
Damn, Usagi. Usagi not putting up with it anymore. Usagi not going to her death like a punk is what's happening. They're at the D point.
They are. And they head towards the smoking crater where presumably the Dark Kingdom is. Because Amy is looking at her computer and she says, hey, there's a strong evil aura coming from that way, according to my computer that I've been doing some work on while we've been standing here. Then the camera slowly pans to a literal crater belching pink or purple energy. Yep. They call it a volcano.
Volcano.
Yeah, I was going to say, they specifically call it a volcano in the dub. I don't know. That's a tough one. Is it evil? Probably. So they head that way. Meanwhile, inside the smoking volcano, presumably, there's Queen Beryl watching on her crystal ball, seeing them approach, and she's like, well, it's going to be over soon. Queen Mutali is about to wake up. Hey, hundreds and hundreds of monsters that are just standing around here. Any of you want to kill these girls for me? Now, can I just ask why she doesn't go, hey, hundreds and hundreds of monsters standing around. Why don't you all go kill the Sailor Scouts?
You'd think this would be the time.
Like, when else are you going to use these people?
To be fair, she does send a task force.
She sends 5 people to deal with 5 people.
Hey, they're her elite team.
Oh, and let's talk. Well, I can't wait to get into that. So, okay, yes. Who steps forward but the DD girls?
The DD girls.
Well, and okay, so I was trying to figure this out last night. Are they moth girls? Are they like bunny girls? There's a few different like motifs coming to bear on their design.
They're furry, but their wings are not moth wings. They're like pixie wings, like long, thin bug wings.
It's weird. Yeah.
They're all wearing bathing suits. Okay. No, they're actually wearing stripper outfits. Now, I was going to say bathing suits, but I changed it to stripper outfits because they all have the little fake cufflinks.
Oh, so they do. I'm also going to say, if you're looking for visual reference, maybe don't just Google DD girls. This is a lesson that I'm learning the hard way right now. But I found a comparable picture, and yeah, they have cufflinks, and they have these really intense eyebrows. Yeah. Mostly is what I'm looking at. They're like
they're kind of like moth things, but they also look like wings on their own.
Yeah,
they're like the little wings from Namor's ankles up on their eyebrows.
The weird thing is, Juliet, when I Google DD girls, it's all Sailor Moon.
Okay, well, I'm not going to extrapolate on that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they have a lot of different design elements happening here. One of the things I really thought was strangest about Sailor Moon when I was a little girl, watching the designs of the monsters, was like, I know Sailor Moon is for me. I know it's aimed at me as an 8-year-old girl, but all the monsters really look like Witchblade characters, and I'm not really sure what to make of that. I think I just chalked it up to, like, cultural differences, but it was strange to go from, like, American fare aimed at the same demographics. So, watching, like, I don't know, like Winx Club or that WI, like the witch show where the girls all had the stripy tights, and it was kind of the, like, a Western attempt at a magical girl show. It was popular for a while.
Do you remember what they're called in the Deke dub?
Oh, God, I don't actually.
Because it's pretty good.
Wait. Are they the Doom and Gloom girls?
They certainly are. They are the Doom and Gloom girls.
I actually kind of love that. Because it's so at odds with their design. Like, they're these, like, candy-colored, like, sci-fi bikini models, and then they're Doom and Gloom girls, and you're expecting, like, I don't know, like Elvira, not Elvira, what's her name? Lydia from the animated Beetlejuice. That's what I would think when I think, like, Doom and Gloom girls. I think of, like, her and, like, Daria and maybe one of those, like, 2004 Slave Labor graphics comics, like, Gloom Cookie or, like, Lenore or something. I'm like, no, they're just here, there's the pink one with her, like, big fluffy bob and, her, like, green bathing suit, and, they're here to bring Doom and Gloom. Why would you assume otherwise?
What got me about this, because you only see them, like, kind of posing, and, like, first of all, Queen Beryl is like, hey, anybody want to go fight him? And then these 5 monsters strike their pose, their calendar pose for the Negaverse calendar. And you only see them kind of really quickly. It's only a few frames that they're actually on screen together before they go out to fight. And what I thought when I saw them really fast was that they were meant to be counterparts for the Sailor Scouts. Because there's one with the long black hair that looks like Rey. There's one with the short hair that looks kind of like Mercury, although it's not the right color. And then there's a blonde one. But then, like, it doesn't hold up if you actually look at them all together. So I was wondering if that might have been an intent of the design, but I don't think it holds up enough if you actually look at them. I think it was just me seeing the short hair and the long hair and extrapolating from that.
There's totally precedent for that. I mean, well, maybe not at this point, but I know later on, there's Sailor Moon has a great and abiding love for, like, creating the counterpart villain team. I thought the same thing, but and I'd actually just kind of assumed until this moment, like, oh yeah, they're all matched up with one of the Guardians, but no, they're really not. I just, not technically, I guess.
The main one has, like, a thing on her head that has, like, jewels on it that sort of is vaguely reminiscent of Sailor Moon's brooch and stuff.
They look like the tiara.
Yeah, it's kind of close, but then it just doesn't quite go anywhere.
So after we get the Doom and Gloom girls, the DD girls, the Doom and Doom girls, I guess they are in Japan.
What's weird is there's a bunch of fan art of them too, which is pretty interesting. I'm seeing.
Well, look, they're important villains. They do kill the Sailor Scouts.
They're important villains with little to no personality at all.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
look, if we're going to talk about people with no personality, we're going to get around to Minako in a second.
Oh, true. For now, she gets better. Anyway,
I mean, she would almost have to.
Damn, you really got it out for her. My God.
No, look, you know that I love Codename Sailor V, and you know that I like Minako a lot.
Yes. She's one of your favorite scouts.
She's one of my 5 favorite scouts at this point in the show. In these 2 episodes, she does nothing, she says nothing. Everybody else kind of gets a moment. Minako gets nothing, and it's really, like, it bugs me.
It's true.
So now we get to some of the best stuff in the episode.
Well, first, there's a really awesome shot, another great shot of the scouts walking, doing their determined walking, which is like their signature move.
Yep, walking in the fog of the Arctic. And
everybody looks like cool and determined and like, like they're about to go fight, and Mercury's like tapping on a computer, and like Usagi's in the background with a weird cartoon face because she's so cold.
Yes, that's true.
I love it when they do stuff like that. I love it when they remind you, like, yeah, she's still Usagi.
They sense something coming or something up ahead, and up ahead appears Tuxedo Mask, beat to hell, hanging off a pair of chains, torn
crucified.
up. Yeah, torn up, bleeding, dying, presumably. And they're like, I don't know about this. And he's like, oh, princess, help me. So Usagi goes to help him, and they go, wait. This is probably a trap.
Amy goes, wait, this could be a trap. And Makoto goes, it's usually a trap. And rolls her eyes because Makoto is the best.
And then Ray goes, they're targeting you because you're so predictable. Well, she might be right, because Usagi's response is, what if it's really him? She breaks through. She runs straight for him. The other scouts have to tackle her to the ground. And by the time they've tackled her to the ground, that's when Mercury is finally done with her computer analysis of the situation and goes, it's not him. And giant tentacles shoot out of his chest and destroy the ground where they had been standing moments ago as they evade barely. And then probably my favorite thing that happens in the entire episode is... So the bad guys, obviously, it was the bad guy disguised, and she's like, oh, like, we were trying to trick you. And Sailor Moon's like, how dare you? That was terrible of you. She actually says, I was stupid to fall for it, but you're stupid for trampling on young girls' pure love. And then Ray says, she goes on for too long, and Ray goes, you went on too long. Then, is it already time? Oh, no, then we introduce all the Doom and Gloom girls. I want to get to the part where he appears again. That's the best thing in the world.
Okay, so basically what happens is they do the same thing twice. Again, I can see why they cut it out.
No,
I can see why they cut stuff down.
The best part of the episode. The exact same Tuxedo Mask appears, the exact same position. He says the exact same stuff. Princess, help me. Sailor Moon, I love you. Help me. And the scouts go, I can't believe they're doing this. What kind of an idiot would fall for this the second time? And Usagi runs out for him, trying to solve him, or trying to save him. And they're like, "Ugh!" And they have to tackle her to the ground again. And 2 seconds later, out erupts the tentacles, the exact same situation. And she was like, but I had to do it because what if it was really him? I would have to actually save him. It's wonderful. That is my favorite part of the episode, because Usagi is so good and pure.
Yes, I actually really, okay, it's pushing it to do it twice.
But it says so much about her.
Yes.
Yeah, it really does. This is what I'm talking about. Like, everybody has something to do except Minako. And this is kind of like Sailor Moon's thing, where it's like, for the rest of the episode, like, we're going to see her, she can't bear to see one of her friends get hurt. Like, it's the worst thing that can happen to Sailor Moon is seeing her friends get hurt. And she is unwilling to even take the chance, knowing that it's a trap. It's not that she doesn't know it's a trap. It's not that she's that stupid. Although, obviously, it kind of plays like that for comedy. But it's that she can't take the chance of it actually being real. Like, she's going to do it every time. And that's a really cool thing about her character. Like, I really do like that about Sailor Moon. Again, twice in a row is pushing it.
It has to be twice. It has to be twice to work. Now,
But I do like that while they're talking about how it's a trap, she's like, yeah, but what if it's not?
so now,
Well, see, I laughed, but I do that all the time. Like, I am totally one of those people who will be like, oh, did we lock the door? And my fans will be like, well, yeah, I know we did. And I'm like, but what if we just think we did? And our brain is like creating the memory that we locked the door. I'm just going to go check it one more time. And then, I check the door and I'm like, okay, we can go now. I'm like, but I'm going to do it one more time, like, just to make sure. Because, sometimes, like, our housemate, screws it up, and I'll just check. Usagi has the best of intentions. She is just trying to make sure that people are safe, and I support her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, here's where it gets a little strange to me, because then Jupiter steps forward, and Jupiter's going to take on the fight, and Tuxedo Mask disappears, and pops up Andrew, or Motoki. And I go, wait, how do they know about Motoki? Like, I get where they would go, Tuxedo Mask, obviously. We captured him. We know everything about him. That's a thing. And then, as you know, we're going to have Greg later. Are you telling me these girls can read minds? Because if so, they probably should have sent them out earlier when they were going, we need to figure out who Sailor Moon is.
I honestly cannot remember if they know who Sailor Moon is at this point.
I don't know.
Do they know the Scout's secret identities?
I don't see why they would. I don't remember.
Second thing I also can't remember. In the episode with Motoki and his girlfriend, did the Negaverse, could Queen Beryl have watched on her crystal ball as Makoto was like, yeah, Motoki's fine? Is there any way for them to know this without A, knowing who the Sailor Scouts really are, and having known it since they were crushing on Motoki, or B, reading minds?
It plays like reading minds to me.
Maybe it's just initially, hey, I have the power to turn into a boy that you are fond of.
Oh, and it automatically just turns into any boy?
Yeah. I'm not going to say love because I have an argument later.
Right. I mean, yeah, because obviously you could say, well, they knew that Sailor Mercury helped Greg a bunch and there was something vaguely romantic about it, so that's why they turned into Greg. But I don't know about the Motoki one. I mean, obviously that episode had a lot of Jupiter trying to impress him, but I feel like how would Queen Beryl know that? We'd have to go back and watch it, and I'm just too lazy right now.
We can't put this recording on pause for half an hour while we go watch that episode again. I'm not going to go get the DVDs.
We could just pretend and then come back right away and just say whatever we want.
Makoto sees Motoki, and it distracts her long enough to stop casting Supreme Thunder and get all tied up. She gets all tied up by the monsters, and then then she still does Supreme Thunder on all of them at once.
But wait, does that make her triple idiot?
No, well, because she doesn't go, oh, Motoki, you're definitely real.
No, but she does stop. She should just be like, it doesn't matter who you are. This is you're not you. I know that's fake.
Yeah. Even if you know it's fake, seeing someone that you do care about, in pain, is gonna trip you up a little bit.
That's true. No,
Yeah, she's having a visceral response, not necessarily a rational one.
Okay, all right, I'll buy it. So then the Scouts are about to do. Sailor Mars is going to do fire. Sailor Moon is going to do Tiara, but the monsters get really up close to Jupiter, and they're like, "We can't. It will hit her. We'll hit Jupiter. She'll die presumably." So the DD girls start electrocuting Jupiter, which is a weird choice, as Jupiter points out, because she calls down lightning all the time. And so she does that, and as Chris says, she electrocutes them. It does this weird thing where the ice jumps up and contains them. I don't quite understand why that happens.
I think what happens is that the lightning comes down.
Okay.
Because it's a big explosion.
Yeah.
It is a huge explosion. The lightning comes down, melts the ice, the water flies up into the air, and then immediately freezes because it's so cold.
Wow.
That's what I think is meant to be happening.
So in that process, then, 2 of the DD girls are frozen solid to death in the ice.
Yes.
Presumably dead. Jupiter is half in the ice and half out, and it's not looking good.
I'm not going to make it.
That's what she says. Now, this is the first of the spoiled already in the title, Death of the Sailor Scout. Let me just mention for a moment that in the DiC version, they cut out all the deaths. What happens is when they die, you actually see them die, and then you get to see this moment of, you see her true self in a vision being like, hey friends, we're cool. In the Deke version, they just show that part, and they just sort of imply, like maybe the Negaverse has them. You know, like we don't. And in fact, I think when the Jupiter explosion happens, they say something like, she's with us in the Negaverse, and that's it.
Doc says Duke's gonna be okay.
right. and so the implication is all of them just get captured over the course of the episode, and we just never see them again until the end. All right, sure. But yes, they definitely die in this version. So then the first act break happens with the first death of a Guardian.
One real quick thing is
Please.
that Usagi, like, as Jupiter is dying, Usagi, like, reaches out to her and says, no, you can't die because you said that we were going to come back and then you were going to fall in love. And if you were lying, King Enma will rip out your tongue in hell. Which is a weird, like, a very evocative but weird way to try to get someone to hold on, to cling to life.
You're right. Yes, it did say that. It said, if you lie to me, the King of Hell will rip out your tongue. What?
Yeah, King Enma is the Lord of Hell in East Asia, also known as Yama. And he, rules over hell, like rules over he judges the dead. And apparently, if you lie, he will rip out your tongue.
Good answer. It doesn't work, oddly enough. That argument is not persuasive enough to make Jupiter not die. I only wish it were.
If you lie, Lord Enma will pull out your tongue is a superstition in Japan often told to scare children into telling the truth. So apparently this is something you tell kids, which is why Usagi seems to believe it wholeheartedly.
Oh, this is a cute interpretation of it, though. I love the idea of, like, her using that just sort of day to day. Like, oh my God, Usagi, like, you should come by Mako's place later. She's gonna make cream puffs. And it's like, Ami, are you saying this to, like, get me to come to Mako's place to study? She's like, no! And she's like, if you lie, King Enma will rip out your tongue. And so Usagi, nobody believes that. And she's like, well, I mean, I heard somebody's cousin can't speak anymore because that happened to them, so maybe I'm right and you're wrong. This is going to be a headcanon for me now. Usagi just deploys it in daily life and really earnestly believes that if you tell a bad enough lie, you will just never speak again.
I mean, keep in mind that Usagi is a reincarnated moon princess, so that does not seem all that weird.
That's a good point.
So Jupiter dies, so everybody eat your green M&Ms.
What? Oh, right.
In case you have forgotten, Karen Healy, who has been on the show a couple times, an amazing guest, she used to eat M&Ms in the order that the scouts died in the finale. So Jupiter's dead, green M&Ms for everyone.
Love it. So that's very sad, but unfortunately, Sailor Moon has no choice but to carry on. She does not want to. Sailor Moon says, oh, I've got an idea. I'm just going to give the crystal to the bad guys because this is not worth it. None of the scouts like that.
Yeah, none of the scouts like that. And again, it feels like, from looking at it as part of a superheroic tradition, right? Like, that is such a terrible thing for her to just, like, quit. For her to say, like, fine, yeah, take it. I don't want it anymore. But, again, first of all, Usagi never wanted this. Usagi has been very upfront about how she never wanted any of this. She does not want to be a superhero. Secondly, like I said, like, she just watched one of her friends die for real. Like, if she was losing it over an illusion of her boyfriend dying, like, the fact that she, like, is willing to just, like, yes, I know how important this is, but I will give it to you if it will save people, is... is very Usagi to me. It rings very true to her character.
Shockingly, Amy slaps Usagi's face to snap her out of it. Well, to try to snap her out of it, I should say. I was not expecting that. But yeah, Amy is like, snap out of it. If you give that crystal to her, she died for nothing. So there you go. Maybe she does have some feelings for Jupiter.
Amy also immediately apologizes.
Yes.
I think it's fun.
It's very true.
She slaps him and goes, oh, I'm sorry. That's so Amy.
Now, okay, can I ask you a question? This episode, part of what happens in this episode, as you will be seeing over the course of the rest of the episode, is that the Sailor Scouts each take turns taking on the bad guys and dying. Do you think maybe they could have just all fought at once and maybe won?
I mean, that does sound like the thing they should have done.
Right? Like, just, how about we all use our battles at once Okay, well, that's not what they do. In my defense, Chris, what Amy says is, I think it's a literal quote, is she says, my attack sucks and does nothing, so you guys should live longer than me. Right? Isn't that what she says?
I don't think that's... was that in like the 90s subtitles that she said that?
So I think it's something like that. Like it's
I've got
pretty
the
close.
new DVDs.
What
does she says on the new DVDs is, you guys go ahead, I will annihilate them with the power of Mercury bubbles.
That's what she says.
That will strip the flesh from their bones unto the 7th generation. That's on the DVD. I know you don't have the DVD.
Yeah, it's not what it says on Hulu. No, in actuality, she says something like, your offensive attacks will be more useful in the final battle, so you guys go ahead. And she promises that she will not die. Usagi's like, you promise you won't die? I promise. You super, super promise. Yes. And then they have this like still photo montage of them leading Usagi away with her looking over her shoulder sadly. She knows, obviously, that Amy's going to die, but she's accepting what they've said, and it's sad.
King M is coming for that tongue. Now, okay, so...
Go ahead. Let's present your evidence.
The Doom and Gloom girls, the DD girls, decide to pull the same trick again. This is for the 4th time. They show Ryo Urawa, a.k.a. Greg, a.k.a. the boy who likes Amy.
Okay.
Amy's reaction, charitably, is mild surprise.
It's really true.
Well,
she goes,
oh my god.
It's Urawa. Okay, first of all, she doesn't call him Ryo. She calls him Urawa. She calls him by his last name. She speaks formally of him as one would of an acquaintance.
And I'll tell you, I can't, listen, I don't like arguing against myself, but even her surprise, her line then is, so even I can see illusions like this. She's more surprised that they can actually trick her. She's like, oh, I thought I would be too smart to see some bullshit.
Yeah. Keep in mind that Usagi ran directly to it and tried to, like, and it took the scouts to tackle her to the ground to stop her from running towards it. Makoto saw just a boy she's got a crush on that she knows doesn't even have a crush on her. And she, like, stopped in the middle of an attack. And Amy's like, oh, look at that. An illusion. Yeah.
Because she's logical and she's able to reason that it's an illusion immediately. She just goes, no, obviously I'm not going to be tricked.
Like, there's a reason there's ice between them. That is all I'm saying. That field of ice just got a little colder.
Remember when they were in a heart together?
Are either of you familiar with the Ami's first love story?
No.
No, I know it's one of those like bonus stories they did at the end. I haven't actually ever read that one, I don't think.
It was I think it was adapted as a not really long enough to be a movie, like a little special episode of the anime once. It was actually kind of hard to get a hold of, and still like a lot of places that have Sailor Moon will put it up.
I think we've been told about this.
Well, one of my favorite things about Ami's first love is it's the closest thing to a romance she has in the manga, and basically she receives a love letter, and it's from somebody who calls themselves, oh my god, I realize now I'm about to say it out loud how ridiculous it sounds. Somebody who calls themselves Mercurius. And I know, it's terrible. And this same person using this name is the only person who beats her in all of the school exams. You know, so the results will be posted on bulletin boards all around, and it'll always be like number 1, Mercurius, number 2, Mizuno, and it's driving her nuts. And then suddenly she gets this love letter from the person, and she immediately breaks out in hives. And and she's explaining it, to the other girls, and they're like, "Oh my god, how romantic, how exciting!" And she was like, "I hate love letters. I don't like them. I don't want them. They make me nervous and nauseous, and I don't have time." But she starts becoming, slowly obsessed with, who's Mercurius? Oh my god! And they kind of needle her into admitting that, she hopes that he's like her dream guy, and they're like, "Oh, who's your dream guy?" And she's like, "Oh, a young Albert Einstein." And then there's this illustration of this like beautiful anime pretty boy Einstein. But so in the end you find out that Yoma was taking advantage of everything. I'm not sure if it's ever actually like, oh, the Yoma sent all the letters, or the letters were sent by somebody and the Yoma just took advantage of them. But Ami comes down with like a flu kind of thing, like literal love sickness, and in the haze, like the Yoma, comes to feed on her energy or whatever. And she springs out of it and she makes this like completely delirious deduction like, oh, it's you! You equals like my weakness divided by something or other, and the point is I gotta beat you, and then I won't feel feelings anymore. And she defeats the Yoma, and she faints, and in the denouement, all the girls are like, oh, wow, well that was bad, but don't you wonder, who Mercurius was? And she's like, I don't care. I don't have time for romance. Romance is bullshit. I'm gonna get back to work. And then it ends with this like full page splash of her like pointing at the reader, and it's the caption is like, "Oh, Sailor Mercury has a very important announcement for all you kids out there," and she just says like, "Stop reading comic books and study." and that's the moral. So watching this, because I kind of forget that Greg was a character. Watching this and her just being like, I too can be prey to human emotions. It's like I love that combined with Ami's first story, like creates a really round picture of her interaction with romance and her attitude towards romantic love. Yeah, no, it was especially amusing to see her standing on this literal field of ice being like, I see you're trying to get to me through the human emotion known as affection. Well, no time for that. Bye-bye. Like it's just really funny.
Yes, no time for that. Bye-bye, I'm going to blow bubbles at you.
Mercury uses bubble spray. Amazingly, does not destroy the planet for some reason.
Actually, can I give her a tiny bit of credit? It is the most useful use of it I've ever seen, because they throw lava at her and she uses it to cool the lava off.
Yes, that is actually true.
That is
But
useful.
they end up getting her in the vines, and they hoist her up, and they say, hurry up and roast pig.
They do.
Which, again, not only like mean and unnecessary, inappropriate. Like,
she is actually the only Sailor Scout who doesn't kill one of the Dee Dee girls.
Oh, but she uses her real ultimate attack, which is taking that shitty computer and just bashing it in their head.
Yes. She takes out their ability to do illusions, which is very useful.
Amy does not fuck around. That is all I'm saying. Like, if you get up close on Amy, she will bash you. She will break your head, Jewel, with her computer.
Amy is like stealth the most hardcore of all the characters. Like, it's hidden behind like, oh, I have the bubble power, I'm gonna toss puddles at you. But if you get in her business enough, she will crush you.
This is one of the really weird changes that they made in the Deke dub, which is they cut out the part where she smashes the illusion making Jewel, and they leave the shot right before that where she's holding the computer and going like, and like you could see her moving the computer, and they add in the Doom and Gloom girls going, oh, we're gonna use your computer to follow the Sailor Scouts, and it's like, oh, you just made Amy suck. Like, you just took away the part where she does something awesome, and you added in that they're using her stuff to track them down. Nice.
Right. So then Minako dies, and then
wait. Wow, you really don't care.
It's so boring. Like, the thing that I wrote down in my notes was, I literally wrote this down in my notes. Venus has zero personality in this episode, but she does shoot someone in the face with lasers.
Yes.
But this death is nothing.
There's like a giant chasm, and she jumps down willingly, right? Isn't that what happens?
She gets caught up in the chasm opens up, and the vines come out, and she gets pulled down into the chasm, and there's lava, and then she does crescent beam and like shoots one in the head, which again is pretty cool, but like it's nothing. It is nothing. She is so boring in this episode. I like Minako. But yeah, it's
they hadn't figured her out.
Pointless.
They didn't figure her out first season.
Yeah, they certainly have not. She had because the one thing she says is like again, Usagi says, "Hey, no, like I'll give up the crystal to save you." And Minako goes, "No, I'll never forgive you if you do that," which is a conversation we've already had. So there's like nothing to this. There's nothing to it.
Wow.
She gets no struggle in this episode the way the rest of them do.
Yeah, she gets no struggle. And again, like there is like instead of Greg or instead of doing Tuxedo Mask twice, Minako has a tragic love. They could have at least gone back to their own continuity.
No, that's the worst though. That episode sucked. Don't ever reference that again.
I know that episode sucks.
Don't ever reference it again. How dare you?
They could have they could have done something other than just like, oh yeah, then Minako died.
And she also dies in like a giant ice sculpture, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very, like, it is as Zoisite would say, it's a very beautiful death. But Minako could have not died and just like hung around quietly behind Sailor Moon for the rest of the episode, and it would not have changed anything.
Okay, let's get serious now, because this is where it all happens. Listen, I'm going to say it anyway. Am I the only person who cried at this part? Probably.
I did not.
I totally did. Because listen,
I felt feelings.
Oh, everybody! Blue and yellow M&Ms can be eaten at this point. Blue and yellow M&Ms can
first
be eaten.
blue. No, not yellow. Orange.
Orange.
Blue, then orange. Look, obviously, I give Mars a lot of flack because she gives Sailor Moon a lot of flack. But this is a really emotional section of the show where Sailor Moon is just like, Sailor Mars, I can't let you die. Please just go home. I'll fight Queen Beryl, I promise. Just go home. And Sailor Mars is like, no, I have to do this. You have to do what you got to do. I'm probably not going to make it, but you got to be strong. So do it. So step aside. I'm going to go die. And she goes with a smile and a wink to her death. And it was really sad. And I cried.
I mean, it's a really good scene. I think it's weird that Mars goes, oh no, you've got, like, don't fight these guys. You've got an important final battle ahead. Didn't you see the title of the episode, The Tragic Final Battle? Everybody seems to be familiar with the genre conventions of the show at this point, because this is the third time that they have told Sailor Moon, hey, no, you need to go have the final battle. You need to be around for the end of the episode. You
have to fight Queen Beryl, which, again, is kind of hilarious, because Queen Beryl's got hundreds of other people she could go, fuck, the Doom and Gloom girls are dead. All right, you go up next. Oh, that person's dead? All right, you go up next. That person's? All right, you go up next. Like, she doesn't have to fight.
It is probably, we've seen several turning points for Rei over the show, and her, like, what she says here and how she acts here is a real turning point, especially given how shitty she was to Usagi earlier in the episode. But yeah, like, it's like, no, I think you are right to cry. I did not.
And she saves Usagi specifically because while she's trapped in a giant ice pile, another monster attacks Usagi, and she blasts fire out through the ice pile and kills the monster. So again,
glacier is the word we have for those. They're not generally called ice piles.
It's piles of chunks of ice. It's not a solid glacier.
It's true. I would agree in calling it an ice pile. It's not properly a glacier.
Thank you. And then she gets this. Listen, Mars actually gets to be pretty badass. The final monster leaves her for dead, thinks she's dead, and then as she goes up to attack, Sailor Mars is like, I'm not dead yet, and manages to take out the last monster. So we get, again, Jupiter took out 2, Amy took out none, Venus took out 1, Mars takes out 2 more.
Yeah, and the actual animation of the fire coming out of the ice and like destroying the monster is pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really love 90s anime and its way of animating fire and water and electricity really specifically. It's just something I noticed, like, whenever I go back to watch, Yu Yu Hakusho or Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball Z or whatever, it was just, like, really intense and visceral and, like, not super well animated in a lot of ways. Like, fire is generally red and orange and a bunch of regular shapes, but I love it. It's one of my favorite things about Sailor Moon and, like, every Sailor Mars scene.
I like the thing they do where, like, the fire will be, like, a cylinder with, like, the little, like, comets around it. That's my favorite kind of anime fire. Because that's also the way I draw Spider-Man's webs when I doodle Spider-Man. Todd McFarlane spaghetti webs, man.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
So
Sailor Moon is sad.
Well, Sailor Mars,
all her friends have died in front of us.
Sailor Mars says, right as she dies, Sailor Moon was right. She should have kissed Yuichiro.
Anime only.
Yes, anime only, of course.
Definitely anime only.
Not in the manga, sure. So now Sailor Moon is super sad. She doesn't want to go on. She's sitting on ice, which is probably really cold because she's not wearing much. But she's more sad about it than she is cold. And then the ghosts of her friends appear for a second.
And this would later be completely ripped off in the last Harry Potter book. Just a heads up for everybody.
Well, it makes more sense in the last Harry Potter book.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Because in the last Harry Potter book, it's because of a magical item that they've talked about a bunch. In this, it's just she sees their ghosts. Or she imagines them.
I'm pretty sure it's it was completely everything in Harry Potter was completely ripped off of Sailor Moon. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, all right. They're similar. You're right. They're similar. No, they're not. And the art style for the ghosts is nice. It looks like they've like colored them in like colored pencils or something, which is nice.
I was thinking like crayons or maybe markers, but yeah, they are colored in a different style. It's really cool.
And so yeah, they just show up to give her a little pep talk, and she goes, "All right, I'll do it," and she runs off to face the final battle, and that's where the episode ends.
And that does it. And we have not learned anything from this episode.
Oh, that's not where the episode ends.
Oh, wait. What?
Final stinger. The microwave dings.
And I forgot. The Hot Pockets are ready.
The microwave dings, and out comes evil Darian, looking as evil as he's ever looked before. That's where the episode ends.
I mean, there's no discernible difference.
Oh.
Right, so we did not learn anything from this episode because there was not a Sailor Moon Says in this. This episode was chopped up into 2, of course.
Right.
So we will be... Sailor Business Says will be back next week for the actual season finale. But yeah, like, let's just go ahead and go into final thoughts. Like, it's hard... Like, I don't think this episode's bad. There's a lot of good stuff about it. I think it's slow. Like, for this, and that's weird because 5 monsters die and 4 Sailor Scouts die. Like, I feel like
I can't believe you're saying this. I think this episode's really, really good.
No, it is certainly really, really good. It is not it's not what I want out of the season finale, I guess, is the way to say it. And I think a lot of that comes from, Minako's just there. Like, they repeat a lot of things, and Minako's just there. Minako's death is bad enough that it kind of tanks the episode for me, to be honest.
Wow. I mean, Minako's death is not that great, but again, I just think overall this episode is so good and so emotional, and, I really feel it. I really feel the sadness when they all die, and, I mean, it's because of Usagi. It's because Usagi feels it so acutely. I mean, and that's the thing about this episode is it's different from a lot of superhero episodes, or a lot of superhero everybody is sacrificing for the greater good episodes play really differently from this, because you don't normally get a hero who emotes this much. You know what I mean? If the Avengers are all taking on Kang or whatever, and one by one are getting picked off before the final battle ends, Captain America is not there with every death going, "No, Hawkeye, oh my God, we gotta stop." Like, this is...
Oh, man. Time for a new printing of Avengers Disassembled with new dialogue by Chris Sims, Juliet Kahn, and Jordan B. White.
Like the fact that Sailor Moon is devastated by every death and literally immediately wants to just stop and give up because it's so painful. I feel like that's different. I don't want to say refreshing because it's not refreshing, but it is a different way of telling that story, and it makes it hurt.
No, like, that's the thing. Like, I like everything about this episode. I just don't like the episode.
Okay, all right.
Like, that's why I say, like, it's not that I think it's a bad episode. I don't think it's poorly made. I don't think, like, there's certainly beautiful animation in it. And it certainly, like, plays off as being important. And I like a lot of the character stuff that's in here. But, like, I think part of the problem is that Usagi's really good in this episode, and kind of nobody else is. Ray's good.
Yeah.
But, like, all the Sailor Scouts do the same thing where it's just like, yep, we're gonna die. Go have your season finale next week.
All right.
And, like, I like the team dynamics, and I don't really feel like the team dynamics are on display in this episode. All the Usagi stuff's really good. It's really well animated. Like, it's a good episode, but, like, it's, like, I feel like it lacks the team dynamics that we've seen built up over the course of the Spotlight episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is probably a function of this not being a Spotlight episode. This is all the Scouts coming together, and I don't think it really... I don't think it nails it as much as it should to have the impact that it does. Although it has all that impact with Usagi, but only Usagi. I have complicated feelings about this episode.
All right, Juliet, tiebreaker.
I know this is like the cop-out, but I'm somewhere in the middle between you two. I really love moments of this episode. I really like Ray's death. I love Usagi, just totally certain that this time it might really be Tuxedo Mask, and she better go make sure. I love her making dinner for her family, but I don't think it completely hangs together. I think, it's weird that Rei gets such a moment, but, Minako doesn't, for example. I don't think they totally work together as a team. I think there's, great individual bits, but I think it is missing that team dynamic, so I don't hate it, but it is not one of my favorites.
All right.
I think maybe if they hadn't all been standing around together and for some reason not tried to attack together.
Yeah.
Because see, the thing is, you can't separate them. You can't have them separated and picked off one by one, because then you lose the impact of them being together. It's not like they're on the comms together, but you can't have them be together and then all attack individually.
What it needs is,
that doesn't work.
It needs a ticking clock. It needs that they need to get to that thing immediately because they need to stop something from happening. That way, when they all say, I'll handle this, you go. I mean, what it would lose is it'd lose all the slowness. It would mean everybody running instead of everyone going, all right, we'll just tiptoe away while you die, which probably would make a lot more sense. So maybe that's what it should have been.
Again, I don't hate it. I don't want people to think that I'm I wish that there was a bookstore monster.
This is
I wish there was some kind of, I'm looking around my office trying to see what kind of, I wish there was a Sharpie monster that was trying to make everyone's sketchbooks turn to energy, which I actually would like that a lot. But complicated feelings about
Jedi is a lot of people like trips to the Arctic, right?
People are really fascinated by the Arctic these days. Maybe if instead of the Doom and Gloom girls, maybe if this is where that snowman monster would have shown up, that very uncomfortable snowman monster.
Yes. All right. It is, and also I still do. There's some weirdness because again, why don't they ever try to attack at once? Why are there still hundreds of monsters and yet only 5 go to attack? There's a lot of weirdness going on. Some of these things I think they could have corrected pretty quickly and easily, but they just didn't. And whatever, it's fine. I still think it's a great episode, so I stand behind it, but I get where you're coming from.
This is a weird place to end it, because again, we are kind of only halfway through this story, but that is how the show breaks down. So I guess we will be back next week. Before we go, Juliet, anything else?
I'm not sure. I'm really, really, really excited for when you guys finally get to season 3 or Sailor Moon S. Are you guys going to be doing the movies? Are you going to do Sailor Moon R, the movie, after this?
Not after this.
I know it seems like it should be the one. Well, it's kind of weird continuity-wise. I was never really sure if it was after the first season or the second. Whatever. Are you going to do it?
We're going to do the movies, but not yet because, first of all, they're still not available. We're hoping that they will become available.
They're not on DVD yet.
That's right.
So that's the main thing we're hoping for. But in addition, from when I did watch them back in the day, if I remember correctly, the Sailor Moon R movie takes place just sometime during Sailor Moon R because Rini is in it. Because Rini's in it.
Oh, that's right.
So it has to take place before she shows up, but after she shows up, but before she leaves. So it's weird. The
that's
movies
right.
just
I completely
take place
forgot she was in that.
somewhere in there. So hopefully by the time we get, I don't know, maybe half or 2/3 of the way through this next season, hopefully it'll be out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited for you guys to take that one on.
If anybody out there knows exactly when it falls, hit us up. Send us a tweet at Sailor Business or get in touch with me or Jordan and let us know where we need to schedule that. And hopefully it will be out by then, because right now only Sailor Moon R and I think the first set of Sailor Moon S are out on DVD. So I need to get Sailor Moon R on DVD. Don't buy the Blu-rays. They're kind of a ripoff.
Aww.
Juliet, please let us know where we can find you and all of your stuff online.
Well, on pretty much every social network from Twitter to Tumblr, I'm Prynnette, which is PRYNNETTE, or you can just Google my name and you'll find me.
All right. Jordan, where are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter at Crackshot with a 0 for an O. And in addition, we want to thank, of course, as always, JJ Mason, who is doing our production work for us and editing the episodes for us. You can follow him at JJ_Mason. He works on our podcast as well as a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers